Okay, so I'm going to do a alcohol technique with the De-Zigners. So, and I'm going to also play with using the glass medium also. I'm going to use 99% isopropyl alcohol. So either you can sketch a pattern on. I'm going to work on white, and I'm just going to use these Tri-Plus fine liners. They're like a Sharpie. And I'm going to just kind of sketch in a vase, kind of the shape that I want. This will fire away. I don't have to worry about that. So, and then if we had a table here, bring this in. So if you can imagine, and this is just to give me some kind of a guide here to, and then we'll have some stems to some flowers. And let's say we'll put, maybe we'll have a bud that's hanging down, and we can have some leaves that also can be coming off. And then maybe we have one up here. And this is just a very general shape, and it kind of just depends on how it ends up working out. Typically you would have an odd number, but you need to have it, the shapes or your design like in a triangle shape. So I'll have that one running off, and maybe a leaf here, here, have one behind there, and we can have one that goes in here also, and we'll put some possibly other places once I kind of see how things are going. You could also have a little bud laying down here, and a leaf, and maybe you have just a leaf here that's fallen off. Okay, so I'm working on a 6 by 12, and you need a pipette, just something that you can put some alcohol. So what I'm going to do is put out just a little bit of the De-Zigners into my palette. And it doesn't take very much. I'm going to put some teal. Remember, the De-Zigners are very strong. Wipe off your all edges of your tool, because they will transfer to your next color if you're not careful. So wipe all edges, because you think it's clean, and you could even do it with a damp paper towel. This one has got some vinegar on it that I cleaned my glass with. But it gets everywhere. It has a lot of static electricity in it, so I'm going to put 2 different greens, because I'm going to add yellow to one of those. And then I'll put some yellow by itself. So I'm going to use teal, the dark green, and some yellow for some leaves. And then I've got purple. And then we're going to have some pink. then what I'm going to do is take my pipette and I'm going to add alcohol to each one of these to liquefy it instead of the medium. More color, more alcohol. And then go ahead and stir those up just so you have it. You're going to have to stir as you're working because of the fact that the color is heavier than the alcohol, so it's going to fall to the bottom of the paint well. So essentially, you're making like a alcohol ink, which typically when it's fired it'll burn away. So we are just using alcohol as the carrier for the products. Remember that your De-Zigners are a non-enamel, so you have to cap it in the first firing, whether it's with a clear sheet or whether it is with sifting. See how that yellow and green is going to make a softer. Okay. All right. And I just about spelled that. Let's move these out of the way. I am going to fold that over. All right. So you need to have a straw, or you need to have, and I like the straws that have a bent end. That way I can kind of bend it and guide it. Or this is a Tim Holtz. It's just like an air blower, and they use it in the alcohol inks over there in that non-fired media. So it does push a lot of air, so I find that this one works. But if you don't have that, just use a straw. Anything. You could use an airbrush also. Okay. So let me turn these so you can see them. So you kind of have to work fast because the alcohol tends to evaporate. Okay. So what I'm going to do first is the petals. So I'm going to take a little bit. I'm going to start with the light color and then work to the dark. And I'm going to have to get another pipette because I need one for the alcohol. Maybe. Okay. So in experimenting, I've put the color on just like it is mixed up. It doesn't really move as much as I want it to. So I found that if I'm going to start with the back one first. If I coat the area with the alcohol, and let me zoom in here and move that so you can, I think you can kind of see the wetness there in that light, but I'm going to move it down. So I'm going to kind of coat that area with the alcohol. Then I'm going to put some of the color on, and then I'm going to blow it. So basically it moves around. Now you can see in this that I did not get that mixed up well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to lift that off because it's too grainy. You can even just wipe it off. Okay, so here was that petal. All right, let me clean that pipette out. And then I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to smush and really make sure that color is mixed up well. Some of the colors are a little more grainier than the others, so you kind of just have to learn them. Each designer, depending on the minerals that it's made with, they can be coarser. So I'm just double checking. And you can also let the color sit longer and kind of dissolve into the alcohol. But your alcohol is going to go away. That's the bad part. It's going to evaporate. So let's add a little more alcohol to a couple of these. That's our alcohol dropper. And this is our color. All right, so I'm not really good with my left hand, but I'm going to attempt this and see if I can. All right, so I'm going to kind of cover that petal with the alcohol. Grab some of the pink. Isn't that cool where you set it down and it just, it's almost like if you tap it off as opposed to squirt it off. And then you can start blowing it around. You can even come in and let's say you wanted a little bit of purple on that. You can also add a drop of alcohol to it, which starts to disperse it. Can you see how it's kind of moving around? And then once again, you can take and blow that. But as soon as you start touching it with the blower, you basically, the alcohol starts to evaporate when you blow it. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we've got another petal here. I'm going to add. And then if you drop it on, and it's kind of got a little bit of pink and purple in that, I'm going to add another drop on top of it. It'll kind of disperse itself when you add it on top, but it just really depends on what you're looking for. Okay, so let's do this one over here. We're going to add the alcohol. Grab some pink. Maybe a little bit of purple in there. And decide which direction you're going to go with it. You can even do some of it towards the middle. Okay, let's do this one here. Base coat it basically with the alcohol. Add some color. So all I did was, you could even take it with a brush and put it on there. Add a little drop of alcohol. And let's blow. So you're getting, it's almost like a watercolor type effect. Okay, I've got 3 petals back here. That is that bud. I'm going to try to get just the purple on it. So all I'm doing is kind of scratching that on there. I can suck it up with the pipette if I want. Okay. And then we're going to blow that color out and down. And you have to, it's very abstract, which is hard for me because I'm used to the absolute. Okay, so let's add some of the pink. You could even come in here with, you know, and add some white if you wanted. I did not put any out, so we're going with what we have here. Once again, get your alcohol in there. It can get messy, so be prepared for that. Oh, sorry, I forgot to move the camera. And I don't like the way that light is, so I'm going to turn that. Okay, so if I want this one out a little further, I can do that. If I want to come back over here and add some pink, but I'm going to add a drop of alcohol just to make sure it's going to flow and move on me, for me. Okay, let's do this one. And ideally I would turn my piece, but I'm trying to keep it in one spot. So that one was behind, so I put purple on it. This one is in front. I'm going to add a little bit of alcohol to that color. They tend to dry up very fast. It's not drying up, it's evaporating is what it's doing. Don't worry about that blue. The blue is just the marker that's going to go away, okay? All right, so this one here, we can have both colors on it. So I just kind of drew both of those in. And you really, until we detail on the top piece of glass, sometimes that's why I drew it with the marker, because it's visually gives you something to go for. Especially, you know, if you're not used. I like to have something in front of me, a pattern, so to speak. So that's why I did the drawing. All right, so let's go over here to this one. Cover with alcohol. You can always add the alcohol on top. Now, I could take a liner brush. So if I wanted, I could come over here and get the pink and just kind of draw in some lines. Grab the purple. You can put dots of it and then push. So it really just depends on, you know, try both and see what you like. See what works better for you. Okay, alcohol. So whether you drop a dot and let it move, you can get the similar effects either way you go. So maybe I only want the purple there. And I'm going to push this one out because it's going down. Okay. And alcohol. I know the alcohol is probably hard for you to see. All right. So let's push. So you're pushing the color into the alcohol. Okay. And you can see that it's drying pretty fast over there. I noticed that there's a area here, and I may have actually dropped some alcohol on there and didn't realize it. We'll just touch it up there. Okay, we do have, we put a bud at the bottom here laying on the table surface. Okay, so I'm going to get some more alcohol, and I'm going to do both of these, or excuse me, all three of these at the same time, just for saving time. If you find that you don't work very fast, then you may not want to do but one at a time. Okay. And then okay. All right, so then we've got some leaves, and I want to kind of fill in some of this background with some of the leaves. And I think I'll do this all with the brush. I think it'll be easier to control. So I'm going to get my alcohol ready and coat that leaf. A little bit of the yellow. And let's grab a little bit of teal. So I just applied it kind of loose, watercolory. And see, if you go over the top, you get more of a rounded. If you want it to go in a direction you want, then you need to come at it from that angle. And see, I'm pushing back, telling it to get back over there. You can always come and take some of it off with a Q-tip. So if you don't like something, like right here, I dropped that yellow, which I just saw. And look, I dropped green up here. So we'll have to add a leaf there to make up for that. All right, I think there was another leaf in here. So you don't think that you're getting a whole lot on. See, I'm just kind of working that into the alcohol. It almost is like I said, watercolor effect. Okay, so let's let that one dry. I had one kind of right here. It was elongated. A little bit of yellow. And see, when I kind of mush those together, they blend. Okay, then we had one over here. You know, and you wouldn't even have to, like I said, it was just a visual aid for myself. You would not have to put the leaves in. You can just do your petals, and wherever you have space, then that's where your leaves are going to go. A little bit of teal. And I'm going to add another drop of alcohol on that so it will flow. You see how the tip of this didn't move very much, so it was already dry out there. All right, I'm going to add some alcohol to these. All right, so we need to fill in this area in here. So I'm just going to kind of grab some of that darker one, grab some of the yellow, which kind of makes like a chartreusey type color. And then let's add a little bit of that teal. And then kind of blow it around. So that kind of just filled in. If you don't like the way it looks, you can always come back and add a little bit of alcohol and just kind of tap it to disperse it more. Just remember, when you drop the alcohol on there, it's going to create a dot in that area and basically diffuses. So you kind of need to know where you're going. Okay, so then we need, let's do another one over here. Maybe we start with more teal on it and then go to the green on the tip. And add some alcohol. Let's see if we can kind of okay. All right, we've got some down here. Once again, I'm going to start with alcohol. Let's see, I just about forgot. Put some teal, some of that green. Now, like I said, you could use the straw. And you don't get the puffy little air circles. We'll do a couple of these leaves with the straw. So put a little on. And we can always clean up, remember, with the Q-tip. You can see that it takes very little product to do this. All right. Oops, I was going to use the straw. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to pull in lines with my liner brush for my stems, okay? I am going to add a little bit more alcohol to these just because they've been sitting here evaporating. Okay. And I'm just going to Always stir that, because remember, your color is heavier, so you need to keep it stirred up. Okay, remember the blue lines will go away. Let's kind of do one here, and then bring it down here. Okay. All right, so the base I'm going to do in the teal color, so I'm going to turn this sideways. And I'm also going to back off just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to do this side first. So once again, we're going to add the alcohol along the side and the bottom here. I'm going to stir that up. And I'm just going to kind of lay some of this in there. And then I'm going to blow. And I'm going to add more alcohol, because I want it to fade. I want it to look very watercolory. See how I just added that on top, and it just starts moving, or allowing it to move. See how it's just kind of sheeting across there? It's almost, that's pretty cool. Giving you the illusion of it being round. Let's add a little more color here. So I'm blowing, but I'm also moving as I go. You could always rinse your brush, and you could come back here, you know, and you can straighten that edge. But remember, we can come back at the end. When that alcohol evaporates, all we got to do is take that Q-tip and give that a straight edge. You can see how quickly that dries. And you got to be careful, because like what I did there, that kind of changed it. So I want to loosen that back up so it's not such a stark. Yeah, it just changed it again. Okay, I'll leave it alone. Alright, so then let's turn it around. Remember, that's just marker, so it's going to burn away. Let's do this other side. More alcohol all the way down that edge. And you can even, like if I wanted to pull some lines in there, because then it's going to use that color. Remember how I just remember, every time you do that, it's drying out the alcohol and making it evaporate. And now I've got a line on this side because of it. So we may have to add some alcohol here and disperse that line so it's not real harsh. Much better. Okay, let's add a little bit down here. So you have to just kind of keep playing with it. And remember, we can come in here and straighten that bottom up. And then we have that table. And let's see. Let's do, I think we need to do that in the purple just to make it kind of be different than what's already there. So I'm going to liquefy that purple a little bit and put some of this here. And I really should have had this turned the other way. So that I didn't have to work backwards. But okay. Gotta have multiple hands. I need about 4 hands is what I need. I'm going to turn this time and get it where you can see it. Maybe there. So I'm going to add more alcohol. Let's see if we can kind of disperse that a little bit. Kind of need to tap that with the brush. So there's, you know, more to this. You can take it and run with it. I mean, by no means, I've just barely touched the surface of what the possibilities are. So I look forward to seeing what you do with it. I think I'll make that whole bottom with some purple. Let's add, and just kind of really lightly. Like I said, more of a watercolory type finish to it. Okay, so let's turn this around and look at that. Okay, so if if you wanted some highlights across the vase, like a glare, we have those shaper tools, the Silicone Shapers. So let's try. So you can add some alcohol, and then you can just, I gotta get this in the right angle. And it could even be more, you know, a thicker. Maybe, of course, it's going to look better if it's over that dark, because otherwise you're not going to be able to see it. But you could come across it in different places. And this is just marker here. But I'm going to move it so that you don't get caught up in that. So that you can remove stuff with the Q-tip, or I'm just taking the damp brush. You could put alcohol on the brush and move it around. You can use the shapers to come back and actually shape. So if I want this vase in a little bit further there, see how I just take that and scooch it off. And you could do the same over here. So because that alcohol has evaporated, you've just got dry color sitting there. If you touch it, it's going to move. It's going to move. Now this one over here, kind of, the leaf moved more than what I would really like to see. So I'm going to add a little bit more back in here. And let's give it a little, it's almost like something's on the glass. Maybe go into this lighter one here. Okay, so not too bad. I'm going to add some black in the centers. Remember, this is a bud. And if you had a line drawing to look at, then you can kind of visualize where everything's at. See that I can just, it depends on if you want to leave it very organic. Oops, see, I just took my whole finger and went across that and it was gone because it's just powder sitting on there now. See, there's another spot here that, and I think what I'll do is just kind of shape that. And then come back with a little bit of alcohol and loosen that up so it's not so rigid and stark. Maybe add a little bit more. Okay. So I need some black in the centers. So let me get some of that mixed up. So we've got, shoot, try not to do what I just did. You don't want to. I don't know if you can see that. It's like dispersing. And if you can almost use the alcohol to allow it to feather. Let's see if we can get it zoomed in. Can you see that? And then you could go right over the top of it and get a nice makes it move. So I'm going to put a dot in the middle, just going to cause it to feather out. We'll just watch that one and see what it does. We've got another one over here. And you may like That was a little much. You can also take and, you know, pull lines. You can, you know, radiate some lines out. But see, that one's already drying, so, and there again, the shapers, and the other one is a bud, so. All right, so we kind of messed up our, wow, that's already dry. Okay. All right. I think and there's different shapers, so this is just like a rounded tip. So you may find one works better for you than the other. Just be careful. This one got a little fat on this side, so I'm going to shave off some. There again, Q-tip, just to make sure, because once you've got glass over it, there's no going back. Anytime you use the De-Zigners, make sure that you're not going all the way out to the edge. We'll have to seesaw some of that off with a Q-tip, just because the glass has to be able to seal, and it cannot seal if the De-Zigner is out to the edge. It is a non-enamel, so there's no glass in it, and you have to make sure that it's not to the edge. I'm just going to go back, and I've got some areas here that look a little powdery. I'm just going to kind of create a wash. Okay, now you will have to sift clear powdered frit over this. Of course, it needs to dry. You're going to take the Q-tip and clean your edges first to make sure there's no product on the edge, even though it's will wipe off. I always make sure. And then you want to tilt. Okay, so this is a pointed Q-tip. You want to tilt it in and kind of seesaw back and forth, because that's going to remove just a fraction of the color. See the white edge there? And that's what you need so that your glass can seal. So make sure you go all the way down and then lean it in and go across that. Make sure you don't touch the top. Once again, make sure you've got the edges. And then just gently lean it in. Just enough. Can you see the white? It's almost like the marker is there, but there you can see the white. So you're getting just enough off of there so that it will seal the edge. Okay, just a little bit off of there. And just go back and double check. All right. Very cool. You could leave it just like this, for sure. Oops, sorry. I'm going to put my lid on my alcohol. And I really don't think it matters what percentage you use on the alcohol. You can try different ones to see if it makes any difference. Now, when you do the outline, if you want outline, okay, I'll show you a picture. So here's one that I did. You can either use a quill or you could use a brush, but it has to be on top of the glass. Okay, so what I'm going to do is very carefully lay this glass, this is the clear piece, on top. Now, you're still going to have to take it off when you get to the kiln and sift between, and you got to be careful not to scoot it around. So what I'm going to do is actually tape these together. You may find another way that works for you. You know, I'd say put a pattern under there, but you know what? You can't really put a pattern because now that you've done your design, you've lost your pattern that you may have started with because it got bigger, so on and so forth. All right, so now what we're going to do is take the designer black, which is what we use kind of there in the middle. This is mixed with medium, glass medium, GM 300. And I'm going to mix this up some more. This is some that I've had in here. Okay guys, I forgot to turn on my recorder when I did this part. So I've got the sample here beside me, and then I've printed out a picture of the piece before the black is put on. So I've just put clear glass, taped it down onto the sheet of paper. So I'm going to simulate what you would be using on yours. So you would lay your clear glass over your designed piece, tape it together with some painter's tape, and then I've used GM 300 glass medium mixed with the black designer. And you want to get it to kind of an inky consistency because we're going to use the quill pen to apply the outline. Now, if you don't want an outline, you wouldn't have to, but we have these little ink jars that I'm using. I've had some in there, so I just added a little more medium to mix it up to get it to a nice flowing consistency. And you'll know if it's too thick and it won't come out. So here is the quill pen, and on the top of the pen nib, there's like that little oval shape you can see there. You want to make sure the color definitely gets into that oval, because when you press down with the tip of the pen. Let me get a piece of glass here. Okay, so now you can see that oval better, and when you press down against the glass, the tip fans out or opens up and allows the color to flow from that oval shape and anywhere on the pen down to the tip of the pen. So what I usually do is kind of scoop the color up. So we're going to outline. So watch how I scoop it up, kind of get it on the pen, and I don't have a lot in this jar, so I have to kind of tilt it to get what I need in there. When you press down, open those teeth at the end, and it will start flowing, and you should be able to get at least one petal or one leaf before you need to reload. And then I'm pulling in the stamens coming out from the center. The faster you move, the thinner the lines will be. Let me come down a little bit closer so you can see that. Okay. You do want to make sure that you clean your glass before you start this, of course. And I clean mine with white distilled vinegar and just buff it clean. So you can see how I just start, and I kind of hesitate when I start and make sure that you have your glass taped to the bottom piece of your glass, because if you don't put the clear over the top of what you've just painted using the alcohol and the De-Zigners, you won't know where to put your outline. You can't really follow the pattern. We talked about that earlier because you have manipulated the color, and because of that, it doesn't necessarily stay in the pattern that you drew on, or say you had the pattern printed out that I provided. And you can find the pattern in a PDF form and some basic instructions on the blog page of the Colors for Earth website, and I will put that link in the description of this video. Okay, let me adjust that light because that's too bright. I was trying to get it brighter for you. Okay, we're just going to go with it. All right, so you're going to just continue. I like to pull the pen at least towards myself or to my right as if I were writing. I'm right-handed, so if you were left-handed, you could pull it the other direction. I find it harder to work away from myself. So every time you touch down to the glass, you're opening the teeth up on the tip and allowing the flow of the color. And every time I go away from the glass, I'm reloading into my little jar and picking up more color. Okay, constantly turn your piece so it's comfortable. We'll do more to those centers later, but right now just pull in the outline of everything. See there, I had to add more. Okay, constantly turn your piece. But you need to be careful not to scratch. And before you start this, you would want to make sure that all your color on your white glass was completely dry so that you can put this clear on top of it, okay? So press down, open the teeth up to allow it to start. And you don't get very far. This is the 512 nib that comes in our quill pen set. We have a 99 nib, which is smaller if you want that. You'll just have to try both of them and see what you like. I personally like this nib. This is the one I use all the time. So you can see all the different lines that I have on mine. Like I said, you may want to go print that PDF out that has the pattern and basic instructions and colors, supplies, and then you can make some notes on there while you're watching this video. So always start from where it grows from when you're doing your line work. So you would start at the base of the leaf and come out to the tip and then do your center veins, your side veins. So it should go with the flow. So in your petals, you want to make sure you start at the center and come out. And you can see I'm constantly turning my piece as I'm going. And I'm trying to follow, what we created. Of course, when you're blowing those colors when they're wet, it's hard to go back and kind of visualize what you did there. But hopefully you can get the gist of it, and then looking at the pattern that I provided on the blog, that will give you some additional guidance too. Kind of like, oh yeah, there's supposed to be a petal there. So, but follow whatever shape you've created with the technique. Come out and around it, and then don't forget to pull those center lines, the stamens coming out from the center. While you're there, it's easier. That way you don't forget it. So outside, and then center vein, then do your side veins. Constantly turning, constantly reloading the tip. This one is a bud, and so you're going to create like 3 little petals that were hanging off. Or maybe it's only 2, whatever you see with your design. Okay, then we've got some leaves here. So I'm starting from where the stem of the leaf would be and coming out from there out to the tip. That also allows you to get a nice fine point on the tip, because sometimes when you sit down and start a stroke with the pen, you might be a little heavier at that time. So if it's heavy by the base of your leaf or your petal, that will just add shading. So that's why I start from that direction. So, and you can also do this with a brush if you'd prefer. If you don't have a pen, you could do that. I found the pen was easier because most people can just, it's like you're writing with an ink pen or a pencil, and it feels a little easier to do than possibly a brush, and you get a hair that goes wild on you. Okay, so I'm just looking for the different petals that I've created there. Then we've got some more leaves here. There's like a couple more. There's a small one there. Alright, so then we've got a couple more petals over here. Turn your piece. So this goes fairly quickly. Once you get your product thinned down properly, you'll know if it's too thick, it's not wanting to come off. If it's too thin, it's going to run off and puddle onto your glass. So definitely, we're going to add some black fine frit at the end when you get ready to put this in the kiln. So I'm not really worried about anything else on those centers. We've added some detail. You have the coloring on your base piece. Okay, so we're doing these leaves. Then I'm going to show you some tricks on the vase itself to make it a little easier, I hope, for you to do. Now, the De-Zigners, remember, they have to be capped, meaning you have to put clear glass or clear frit, which is glass, over the top of it, because they will wipe off. The medium that it's mixed with is just a carrier. Once that carrier burns off, there's no glass in this product. It's a non-enamel, so it has to be capped. So you will have to sift over the top of the top piece to cover that black. So now add kind of a hint of your stems off to one side. you'll still see it because being 2 layers, you've got the dimension. So, but if you can go down one side of it, it looks nice. Okay, so you can see on the vase here, instead of going straight down the side and then pulling in lines to create some depth and texture, you'll make like little L shapes. So you'll come down, pull in, and I will show you that now. All right, so start at the top and come down, and then pull in, come down, pull in, come down, pull in. So that can just create more texture to make it look rounded. So you just continue, it's like a little L shape. So you can add lines and depth. You can go back and just put a line in there. So just continue down the side, kind of following what you've got there. So basically your painted piece creates your pattern for you. And then do the same thing on the other side. You're just pulling the other direction. And if it's easier, turn your piece like I'm doing. Before I get down there, you want to put that leaf in just because you want to make sure you stop at the correct space or area. Come down, pull in, come down, pull in, down, down and in, down and in. There's 2 leaves over here. So you can see it hasn't taken us very long to do this. And it all depends on the size of your piece too. All right, let's turn it around and do our other. So we've got a bud down here. So do each petal. I've got 3 petals there. And you can pull, you can do the same texture on the outlines too. I did not do it on the flower. I did on the original one, but I didn't on this. But you could do that same, do a line, pull in to give it more of a ruffled look on your petals. A lot of times it's a good idea, and then you got to pull in a stem to this, to watch through the video once and then go back and do it. Now see here, I'm trying to do this without turning my glass, and I can tell you it's not easy to do it, for me anyway, away from myself. Okay, now just add a little bit of detail to the tabletop, so don't forget to do the top of it, and then just kind of create some lines for some texture in there. All right. And then my glass is longer than what the pattern was. So then you can sign your piece. This is nice to be able to do that because it's just like writing with the pen. You see how smooth and quickly that goes. And I tend to put the date on everything. Okay, your pen just washes up with water, so just swish it in the water, wipe it with a paper towel until it's clean. And you can see on the first one the different look to it. You see the little black specks. Those are what we're going to put on at the very end. And I've got shots of each stage. Okay. you will sift clear powdered frit all over. It helps eliminate the bubbles between the glass. It's not going to eliminate every single one of them, but definitely make sure you have a good bubble squeeze on your firing schedule. Okay. And you also want to make sure that you use a Q-tip to clean the edges of your glass on the white one, because the De-Zigners are not an enamel, they're a non-enamel, so you need to make sure that you clean those edges of the painted one with a Q-tip, kind of seesaw it back and forth. So see, you can go back and you can add additional texture where you want, basically detail it, and that is what makes it your own. Okay, so you can kind of see all the lines up close there. Okay, so you can see the line. You do see some of the white glass when you tilt it to the side, but that's what gives you depth on it, because the outline is on a different layer than what your color is on, so it gives you a nice depth to the piece. Everybody's going to want to know how you did that. Okay, so you would remove your tape, so your top and bottom is individual. Okay, so that would be your bottom piece of glass. And I go out close to my kiln and I set my piece of glass up on like a little jar or another, like a roll of tape or anything, just to raise it up. And I put a container underneath, like a big piece of paper. You could use a piece of cardboard, anything that you want to raise it up, because when it's raised, then you're going to come in with clear powdered frit. I like to tap on the red part of the enamel sifter. I don't like to do this where you scoot it back and forth, but whatever works for you. So you would sift clear powdered frit all over one time evenly, and then you want to go and do just a little bit around the edge, and you see that I'm just basically a quarter to a half an inch. That allows the center to fall first, and then your edges can come down later, and you get all of that binder can burn off and squeeze the bubbles out of there. So then I would put that in the kiln, and you can see there's a couple of fine bubbles here and there, and I'm fine with that, but just make sure you have a good bubble squeeze. All right, so then you've got that one. You would go set that in the kiln, and then what I like to do is, let's put this with a white background so you can see it. Okay, and then I would sift clear powdered frit over this one. And like I said, you could use just a roll of tape or anything to raise that up so that the excess frit, you can reclaim it and put it back in your container as it falls off. Okay, so you would sift all over that one completely. Then you would take the black fine frit, which I did not get any out to show you on here, but you would take the frit after you've put this in the kiln. So you've got both pieces stacked up now. They're laying in your kiln on your thin fire or papyrus. Okay, and then you're going to come in with the black fine frit, and you're going to kind of just take your fingers and pinch some. Look here, I put some in the center just to add more accent, so just put a little bit in each center, and then I stay about 4 to 5 inches above it and just kind of add more all over organically. It kind of like gives it a little peppered type look to it. See all the little tiny, so that's black fine frit. Okay, fine. You don't want anything heavier than that because it would be too, you want this as a subtle background accent. You don't want it to take over your piece. Okay, then you would full fuse it. A lot of times I will cut my clear glass slightly larger then my other piece. Remember I was telling you about cleaning off your colored piece, so you would take that Q-tip and kind of just seesaw it back and forth on any area where color was touching the edge. That's going to leave just a microscopic area of the glass that has nothing on it and allow the glass to fuse on the very edge. Okay? Otherwise, it's a non-enamel, so it will be rough in that area because it can't seal. So make sure you've cleaned your edges. Okay, and then you're going to full fuse. I'm using 96 COE, and I'm going to show you some still pictures. So this is your piece, the bottom piece. You would sift all over that. And then you would lay your outline piece on top of it, but you would sift it first. And here's what the two pieces look like together. That has the clear sifted over the whole outline, and then you can see the black on the centers. This is what it looks like if you had stacked them before you added the frit, and this is your final outcome. I did two different sizes. Hope you enjoy this project. Happy painting, and I look forward to seeing your projects. Be sure and tag me on Facebook, and until next time, have a great day.